Hello, I'm Paul Gates. Welcome to this week's episode of The Academics. Joining me today are our regular panelists, Professor Heather Page Preston and Dr. Dave Spiceland, and a special guest, Travis Slaughter, a senior fermentation sciences major here at Appalachian. This week's topic deals with homelessness, specifically student homelessness. Typically, students are not who come to mind when this topic is broached, but how common is student homelessness? So, Travis, take it away. Tell us about your, not necessarily your experience first, but just in general, what's going on with this?
So it was funny before the event happened. I won't get into it right now. This is just a run through. But I was sitting at tap room for Monday Day Wings, and I got an email from a professor. I forget the professor's name, talking about student homelessness and food insecurity. And we had a discussion about it for quite some time at the wing night. And then about exactly a week later, the flood hit, which I just thought was very, very odd. I was saying during the discussion that I wouldn't think that it would be a bigger problem than it was. And then, as you know, that for me, that my life got turned around, my opinion on everything kind of hit. I was in my house when it happened. I was at my desk doing biochemistry, listening to jazz like all the hip kids do these days. And I had my headphones on so I wouldn't annoy my roommate. And it was the definition of a flash flood. I walk into my apartment, put my headphones on. 15 minutes later, once the song ends, I hear rushing water. And I get up out of my chair, open the window, and it's like coming up already to the first stair on the first floor. And you can see the water rising.
Oh.
Yeah. So there were about 5 minutes in there that I had no idea what to do. I don't know what to do. First instinct on top of that was go check on my car, which was parked right next to Boone Creek, right next to the apartment. And it was caught on a telephone wire like this, halfway underwater.
Oh.
And at that point, I was like, I don't even know what to do at this point. I called my mom, and she was like, get out of there. I was like, okay.
Yes.
Very, very strange occurrence. I'm from Carolina Beach, North Carolina as well. Nothing like this has ever happened. I moved 6 hours away to the mountains of Boone, North Carolina, and I get flooded naturally.
You get hurricane remnets.
Yeah, exactly.
Chasing you.
Yeah, that's how it happens.
I know that neighborhood, and I think that's the area where the fire department did a high water rescue
Yes, sir.
during that flood. Because when I was going home, I had to take a roundabout way to get home. When I was going home, I saw there were orange inflatable boats that they were taking people out of apartments.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it was, yeah. And so how long? This, of course, came on you quickly.
It came quick, and it went fast as well.
And then how long did the damage
The
to your
damage?
life, the upset to your life?
Well,
how long did that last?
that was the hardest part, without a doubt, just at the moment for the first couple of days after it happened, because I had so much going on with school at the time as well. It was hard to balance everything out. I had a biochemistry test and a microbiology test 2 days after it happened. And the apartment complex told everybody on the first floor who got affected that you had 7 days to leave the apartment. And that was it. No, we didn't get any help for finding new housing or anything. We just had to get out and get rid of our lease, which was...
I thought there were requirements.
Yeah, it was very iffy. I won't say the company I was renting through.
Yeah.
But that, just having 7 days with school on top of that to get everything out of the apartment. Luckily, my older brother was working in Fontana Village and Fontana Resort, not too far away from here, and he has a truck. So a couple days after that, took some time off of school, just moved everything out of the apartment. As far as damages go, I had a bunk bed in my room, no reason, just the family was moving and we needed to get rid of stuff. So when it was happening, I threw all my items of importance on the top bunk to ensure,
Hope for the
so
best.
all my musical instruments, electronics, schoolwork, textbooks, were all saved. Luckily, there's a lot of clothes and just stuff like that got affected. Don't have anymore. But as far as damage goes, that's about it. Yeah.
So they did cancel your lease at least.
Yeah, we got out of the lease, luckily.
And now where did your brother move you to?
So all my stuff got moved in lots of different places.
Ah.
It's all kind of around Boone right now. Luckily, I'm a senior here, so I've made a lot of connections. I have a lot of really good people who are really helping me out.
So have you been couch surfing?
I have been.
Okay.
Actually, the first person I met up here, my buddy Mike, I've been living in his apartment for majority of this. He has an extra mattress, and they put a sheet on it and moved all the couches out in their living room. So I'm on a mattress in the living room. So it's a little upgrade from a couch.
Yeah.
And I don't have to surf as much.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
it's very, very nice, very
good.
awesome.
All right.
So you'll be doing this until you graduate?
Until next semester. Luckily, we tried to find, me and my old roommate Logan, both trying to find places. And at the time that it hit, it was super hard to find new housing because a lot of it had been already taken up.
Yeah.
Sure. Middle of the semester.
But
Yeah.
now you have people graduating. and-
Yes,
yeah.
yes, ma'am. The guy that I'm living with right now, Mike, my good buddy, one of his roommates, it's an apartment of 3. He graduates this semester. So after this semester, he'll be leaving, and then I'll be moving into his room, taking over a sublease.
You can drag the mattress into that room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, that's good.
Did you get any support from the school, particularly in terms of here's some classes that you've got? And I don't know of any of my students that had this problem, but was there any kind of support in terms of, hey, give this guy a break, or here's what's happened, extension of deadlines or anything?
There was a few classes that did that. Like I said, I had 2 tests in that week, and I couldn't get those tests moved just because they're the really upper level chemistry, biology classes, and they're very strict about making sure everybody takes it at the same time, cheating policies. But my fermentation classes that I'm in right now, I'm in wine production and science, which is wine chemistry. We had a midterm due right around then, which was a pretty sizable midterm as well. And Stefan Sommer, awesome person, he gave me an extra week, which is phenomenal for that wine midterm.
That's good.
So all my fermentation classes, for the most part, I got a lot of help from the people that I really relate with on an every day-to-day basis. As far as the school goes with relief for helping people affected, I did get quite a few emails from not only the university, but Red Cross as well.
Oh, okay.
A good bunch of people were sending me all kinds of flood relief information. There's even a couple legal advice. You could take your lease in and see if you could get take it anywhere.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't want to do that on top of everything. But my roommate did go check it out. He checked out a bunch of it because I had so much going on at the time. So a lot of help was offered, and still is, like I said, by all the great people here in Boone. I've been really, really lucky with all the people that have been coming to help me out and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about this major at some point, the fermentation? And you're the one guiding the interview here, but I'm just kind of curious.
Let's see if we can get to that, Dave. But I've got a couple of questions. Travis, we're talking here about natural disaster-induced homelessness,
Absolutely.
which is not the kind that probably first comes to mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe the 3 of us, from your experience, of course, but with your peers, but the 3 of us, I thought we might mention homelessness caused by other circumstances.
Absolutely.
And like in class, I remember, and this has stuck with me for a number of years now. The route I would take across campus, I saw a car that clearly was home to somebody on campus.
Oh, yeah.
And I always wondered who that was, and all of a sudden, after a number of months, it was gone, and I thought, well, I hope they graduated and didn't give up or something like that. But that seems to be a common, we hear a lot about student debt. Appears to be something that there is a problem with.
There is a problem. I did some research in preparing for this show, and there have been some studies done, one by the University of Wisconsin and also California State University and a couple of others. And the estimate is anywhere from 8% to 20% of students nationwide who are homeless at institutions, and all the institutions come in somewhere in that range. So some obviously are lower. The couple of studies I saw averaged about 14%, and this was at community colleges. But four-year institutions are seeing it, and it doesn't matter how prestigious the institution is. There are homeless students everywhere in America, and there are a lot of reasons why. Part of it is education's more accessible now, but with that comes people who are coming into the system without the financial safety net, parents who don't make a whole lot of money. One of the state university schools in New York, the average income for that college was $29,000 a year. You can't live on that, much less pay to go to college. And I looked up numbers here, what it costs to go for a year. And the grand total is almost $15,000 with room and board and meal plans. The meal plan only covers you while you're here. There's a statement that says it's not meant to be a full meal plan to meet all of your meal needs. But it's expensive. Now, it's a lot less than going out to eat every night, but certainly not the same as being able to afford to shop on your own and do all of that. Plus, you have to have the money up front to put it into an account to withdraw, to pay for your meals. Housing is expensive, and it's only there for you when school's in session. There are some universities that are coping across the nation by leaving dorms open in the summer and during breaks so that students who don't have housing and rely on campus housing can stay in their housing. They're not kicked out and have to go to shelters. There are a number of places that have started shelters for homeless students. Universities, they've done it as research projects. Yeah.
Your experience, Dave, with this kind of thing? I mean, we see students all the time, and with various kinds of stresses, and I imagine some of these are homeless problems. I've had a couple. I would say about 2 or 3. Of course, that's only the people I know about.
Yeah.
People who
No, there's
who
a
have,
stigma attached to it.
and who have needed to tell me
Yeah.
for one academic reason or another. So I assume that is just the tip of the iceberg. And
Yeah, they can't give hard numbers. They say that this is the
Yeah.
best we can do right
Sure.
now, but it is estimated to be much greater
yeah.
than the numbers I just gave you. Have you had students who have come to you?
Nobody has come to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm open to, if there's issues. And you try to keep an eye on students in terms of, are they having some issues of some sort? And I've had students with issues, and I've talked to them privately about student counseling. And technically, we can't even find out if they've gone for counseling. There's those kinds of
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've not had anyone approach me to tell me, but I have seen the cars around. Like you're saying, it's obvious people are living in their cars. Yeah.
Like I say, I've just had a few tell me, but I can only assume that's just a small fraction
Yeah.
of those. How about your friends, Travis? Do you hear anything or see anything from your peers?
Well, as far as in my major, the people I deal with directly, not really. I don't really hear much about it. Like you guys said, around campus you do see cars, and around town, not necessarily student, you don't know.
Yeah.
But just from personal, everybody that I know here, I've never heard of anybody struggling or anything like that. Of course, many people are, but like I said, firsthand experience, not too many people.
That's part of the problem with collecting the data is there's such a stigma attached to it. People don't want, they're ashamed. And a lot of times they get not so good feedback. You're not motivated. And what the studies show is that the people who are financially insecure are actually very motivated because it's the college degree that will give them a better future. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that there's a thin line between getting by and not getting by.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't take much to knock you over the
flash flood.
over the line, a flash flood. I mean, if you had a job on top of that and your car damaged pretty heavily.
Yeah, totaled completely.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So then they would say, well, hey, if you can't get to work,
We'll
we don't
find
need
someone
you.
else. Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll find somebody who can get here
Yeah.
and do what we need done. So it's that kind of circumstance that was a real sudden thing. But sometimes it's a gradual reduction in your income, and
It is.
all of a sudden you find yourself, okay, now I can't pay.
And also, think about college students. They don't have degrees. They're younger. They're maybe making minimum wage, which in North Carolina is $7.25 an hour, right? So I did some quick numbers just to see how I got curious about this. What would it take? Well, one, if you work 40 hours a week at minimum wage in North Carolina with the minimum tax withheld from that, or tax burden, you do not make enough money to pay your tuition in-state, live on campus, and have the standard meal plan, or even the low option, which isn't even available to freshmen. So if you're coming in behind the eight ball, you're really in dire straits. I don't know what the policy is here, but some universities waive application fees. They have a support network that they've started. They've created food pantries because they recognize the problem. There are, on the ASU site, there is a link for current students, specifically for homelessness, and it sends you to a site that talks about all of the ways that you can find money, get some assistance. Of course, there's some organizations here in town that can help as well, including Hospitality House, that can provide shelter and meals, and also the Hunger and Health Coalition, which can provide food and prescription assistance. Because obviously, if you can't afford a home, you can't afford medical care, you can't afford clothing, you can't afford to eat, it's a terrible cycle you get into. Yeah. Also that you can afford to go to school and get your books.
And very often
Yeah.
the choice is eat or medicine.
That's right.
And I mean, those are the top two
Yeah.
that struggle against each other.
Yes.
And of course, when you have that struggle going on, tuition is probably going to be somewhere further down the
It
list.
is.
And there's your student problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we have a food pantry on campus at the Office of Sustainability. We just opened that, I think it was beginning of last spring.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure of the
They've been
timing
working
that.
on collecting things, and
Yeah.
they finally had enough to make a real presentation of available resources. And now apparently they're going great guns.
Good,
They
good.
have a lot, but there is a demand.
Oh, there is a demand. I mean, it's you know, I'm glad that that service is there, but wouldn't it be wonderful if it didn't have to be?
No, right.
There's that. And also, I know on campus there was a big awareness week right before Thanksgiving, because of course this is the time when you think about gathering with family for meals, and everything is surrounding eating and being well, and so it's nice to make students aware of that, and faculty, of course, and the community at large. But it sometimes I think we concentrate so much on assuming that students are able to donate time and resources, and not think about the students who need the help for whatever reason.
How involved have churches been?
I was just
Yeah,
going to ask
yeah.
you that,
Yeah.
Dave. What,
Oh, I don't know. I'm just asking.
yeah, that's,
I know at my religious affiliation, there are, in fact, we contribute food to local pantries, and we don't necessarily have it at our church building. And occasionally people come by and they'll ask, you know, for some help. But what we've done is we've cycled this to other groups, like things we're talking about here.
like you collect the canned
Yeah,
goods
to
and so
help fill
forth
the
and
pantries,
and deliver them.
Yeah, and we've done some things to help the students who are worshiping, you know, at our place, and try to be aware of some needs that they might have.
Well, you know, Heather, you kind of referred to this briefly. You know, we think about treating the symptoms, but what do we do about the disease? I mean, how do we approach
Wow.
eliminating food insecurity, homelessness, to the extent that we can make a dent there?
Pay a living wage to people. You know, when students come to me and say, I work 40 or more hours a week, that shocks me. I had a part-time job. I worked while I was in college, while I took classes, and I worked full-time when I could get it every break. Never went to Cancun or Florida or anywhere else. I had to make money to pay my bills. And minimum wage then, it was tough. I was very fortunate. I didn't have to borrow money. I had a good safety network to help with that. And I also put a lot of time in, sweat equity in, making my own way. But now it is impossible at minimum wage. to pay to go to school. You can't afford to take out loans. You have no credit to build, right? It's going to have to be a very large systemic change. And it's going to be recognizing that people are homeless, that they are food insecure, that it's not just a few, and there shouldn't even be a few, frankly, but it's large numbers of people. And it's not just in urban areas. Rural America suffers greatly from this.
Travis, have you worked to pay your tuition and things like that?
Partly, off and on. Just recently I've been going whenever Grandfather Vineyards needs help going along with the fermentation thing we talked about earlier, helping out on the winery, doing cellar work, so that has definitely helped out. And then over the summers, working, I barely spend any money when I do go back home and live with my mom, so I don't have to pay for housing or anything like that. But I do save up as much money as possible, so when I get back into school, I already have a large sum, set out, saved. So hopefully I get by. And at the end of every semester, it's always getting down to the end before you hit your next break. Just because at the moment, I don't think I could have a part-time job even and do all the science-based things I'm doing right now. I need a lot of studying time.
Well, we're terrible about that as professors. We say, your education, that's your full-time job. That's job one here. But the reality is a lot of people can't eat or have anywhere to sleep if that's their primary job.
When you describe vineyard work, Travis, that's definitely a seasonal
Yes.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes,
so
sir.
your income is not steady. It's not like you get the same paycheck all the time.
Yeah.
But speaking of vineyards and so forth, Travis, let's take us out with a fun fact about fermentation.
There you go. Okay, so to close it out, I just learned this fact the other day. Back when Prohibition started, as everybody knows, it was illegal to produce alcohol, but it wasn't illegal to consume. So what wineries would do to stay in business was they would dehydrate fruit bricks, that's what they called them, and put a warning label on the top of them saying, "Do not add hot water and yeast, spontaneous fermentation." Therefore, people could buy these fruit bricks and
With directions included.
directions included.
I love
Absolutely.
It. Love it.
There you go.
Your own freeze-dried wine, or not freeze-dried, but some kind of
Concoction.
Concoction.
It's a whole new meaning to packaged wine, right? Yeah, box
We
wine.
wonder what that tastes like.
Oh.
That's our time for today. I'm Paul Gates. We hope you'll join us next time on The Academics.